Hey guys, we are back with part 2 of our bench series, and today we're going to be talking about a common problem we see with bench, which is anterior shoulder pain, where it could be coming from, some common fixes, some easy fixes. So let's get started. Now, if you've ever been benching and you've had that front of the shoulder pain, either at the bottom of the bench or when you're going to press up, we see this all the time, and it can be coming from a couple different places. The first place is it could be coming from the bicep or pec. Could be really tight. Another place is your rotator cuff isn't activating and stabilizing your shoulder properly. And then the last option is obviously the actual joint could have something going on. But the first thing we're going to do is just see, are you just hitting too much depth in the bench? There's a possibility that it could be a simple technique fix that fixes this pain, and it might not be something more serious. So let's go over 2 options that you have to adjust your technique when you're benching. So I'm going to lay down under the bench, show you a couple. So we talked about last time how to set up the bench, and I said a good starting point would be a thumb width off the knurling. Now, this could be either too narrow or too wide for you. For some people, that depth is too much, and so what I recommend is go a little wider, and if you're a little bit wider, you come up, you're not going to hit as much depth at the bottom of your bench. Now, the other option is your shoulders like a more narrow one. This could be for multiple different reasons, but if you want to go more narrow, come in a little bit more and do a narrow bench. That one's going to be a little more tricep heavy. And for most people, they don't like narrow bench, but it's another option to try. The second option for changing your technique is literally just limiting your depth. So you can take, there's actual blocks built out for this. For right now, we're going to be using a nice little pad. And all you're going to do is place this on your chest, and that's going to be your new stopping point for the bench instead of your actual chest. So we're going to lay down on the bench. We're going to place this right on top of our chest, set up like normal in a bench, unrack, and when you go to bench, this is where you're stopped. So you can't go any further, and if you notice, the depth of my elbows isn't as much, which means the pressure on my shoulders is less. Now, if that does not work, if you make those changes and there's no changes in the front of your shoulder pain, we need to address, okay, what could be going on? So the first option is there something really tight in the back of the shoulder that could be causing the front of the shoulder pain? Our normal first instinct is there's 2 rotator cuff muscles in the back of your shoulder that refer pain into the front of your shoulder. These are called your infraspinatus and your teres minor. So what we're going to do is go over lacrosse ball technique to loosen the shoulder. Now, our trusty lacrosse ball fixes all, as we like to say, but what you're going to be doing is you're going to be getting it into your rotator cuff. So I'm going to be doing it on this side because I know this is my tighter side. I'm going to kind of reach across, grabbing my other shoulder so that I put this muscle on a little bit of stretch. I'm going to get it into my armpit area, and then I'm going to lean into the wall, pulling that arm across. Then I'm going to slightly roll in to make sure I'm on top of that shoulder blade. And I'm kind of just going to search around until I find an area that's pretty tender. Once you find a spot that's tender, like right there for me, I'm just going to lean into it and stay here for about 30 seconds and just relax into the ball. After you're done with that spot, fish around a little more, try and find another one. Doing this for a couple of minutes a day could loosen up your shoulder and get you feeling quite a bit better. We find this one's really helpful for temporary relief of that shoulder, especially if it's feeling really tight after a lift. But once you get that shoulder moving better, you also need to make sure the muscles are activating the way you want them to. So the first exercise we're going to be doing is something everyone's heard of, banded external rotation. So we recommend a pretty light band for this, especially if you're warming up to bench. Wrap it around a rig. You can use a loop band as well and just loop it around the rig. And you're going to be pulling out until you feel some resistance. Now, the most important thing for this one is that elbow stays pinned at your side. That shoulder stays rolled back, so it's nice and pinned back, activating that whole entire posterior shoulder. And it also allows it so there's not going to be a lot of stretch on this part of the shoulder. So you're going to roll that back, make sure you have good posture. You're going to come out and in. Now, if you do this and you feel it in the front of the shoulder, I want you to try and lock your shoulder in a little bit more. Really pull it back and see if that goes away. You should be feeling it right in this area. You might feel a little bit up here, but mostly here. And then the final exercise we're gonna go over is called a prone W. So this one's gonna be laying on the ground, and this one's going to be a little bit more intentional, a little bit more aggressive, but this one's also a really good one to make sure that that external rotation and that muscle that really helps you lock in the bar is staying nice and activated. So lay down on your stomach. And you can see here, I have a 2.5 pound plate, a nice little guy. They should have these at your gym. If not, you can also use a light dumbbell for this. I do not recommend going over 3 pounds. You're gonna lay on your stomach. I recommend putting your hand underneath your forehead. Arm's gonna be out. And when you're in this position, same thing we did with the other one, really lock that shoulder into place. Then you're gonna lift this elbow up and down. Notice how this doesn't dip. I keep this in line. And that's gonna force that external rotator to stay pretty engaged. Now, after all of these, the hope is you've found kind of a small solution to some of that pain. Obviously, if it's getting worse, we want you come on in, get it looked at. We'll take a look at it. But for these guys in particular, make sure you're only doing a few sets, not really wearing out your shoulder, just activating it prior to bench. And see how it feels. See you guys next time.